Matthew Arnold was erudite about poetry and its presence in life in a way that was atypical of and above and beyond the average Victorian Joe. According to the Poetry Foundation, his lecture at Oxford in 1857 marked his shift from poet to social and literary critic, and I cannot think of a better way to set up this poem than the premise of that lecture. He argued that the great need of a modern age is an intellectual deliverance, preoccupation with the arts of peace, the growth of a tolerant spirit, the capacity for refined pursuits, the formation of taste, and above all, the intellectual maturity to observe facts with a critical spirit and to judge by the rule of reason. Dover Beach was written at a time when the society was coming to terms with scientific propositions that directly contradicted profound faith in creationism, which led in some sense to a questioning of what it means to be and what it means to believe. And so this poem, by drawing on the sea to construct complex metaphors, is perhaps best described as the semblance of a poet having an intense existential crisis. For the want of a better analogy, like how it would be unreasonable to expect a midnight vent to be grammatically perfect, Dover Beach is a freewheeling poem with no fixed structure. It is comprised of 4 stanzas of differing lengths, no rhyme scheme. While there are a few couplets that end sounding similar, it would be quite a stretch to discern a pattern, and no meter. Broadly, it's an iambic pentameter, but there's little else to be said in that regard. The poem opens with a description of the sea. The waters are calm under the luminescence of a full moon. The mention of straits and France immediately thereafter leads the reader to the assumption that this is perhaps a visualization of the English Channel, an arm of the Atlantic Ocean that separates southern England from northern France. Briefly, the narrator can see the city lights in France before they are obscured by darkness. The night air is sweet, the cliffs are beautiful, and the spray of the sea against moonlit shores is an experience in itself. With listen, however, the mood appears to shift. The Dover Beach is a pebble beach, and the description of the waves picking up these pebbles before flinging them back instills a sense of foreboding. There's a grating roar, a tremulous cadence, and an eternal note of sadness. Sophocles, the Greek tragedian that wrote Oedipus Rex, apparently heard the same sound of the Aegean Sea in his state of contemplation. To Sophocles and to Matthew Arnold, it was representative of the highs and lows of human life. The last 2 stanzas lead the reader to the essential premise. Once upon a time that now seems long, long ago, the sea of faith embraced humanity as a whole, like a girdle around the waist. Now one can only hear the melancholic sound of its withdrawal, one that sounds far too much like the roar of the pebbles fighting against the waves to be anything less than discomforting. Faith is vanishing into the night air, and with that happening, the only comfort the narrator can think of is the love of his beloved. After all, the world as it was at that very moment, while appearing like a land of beautiful dreams, had little by way of love, joy, hope, solace, or certainty. Their state of mind right then, as science warred with faith, was one of alarm and confusion. Dover Beach was a part of my high school literature syllabus, but I do believe that it isn't much after the thunderstorm of adolescence that an individual is forced with some sort of religious reckoning. As a young adult, armed with scientific fact and constantly thrust with perceived rationalism, faith and a belief in a higher power is forced to fight for real estate, to battle to coexist. And in such times, against a backdrop of a ceaseless stream of sad stories, the object of faith tends to shift from supernaturalism to well-love. And that is the juncture at which Dover Beach was conceived. Arnold makes liberal use of imagery, both visual and auditory, especially in the lines of the first stanza that describe the pebbles, the opening lines that describe the pretty English Channel, and the third stanza where faith is like a blanket of warmth. Apart from allusions and personifications to render significant poetic value, but I earnestly believe that what renders the poem historic value is its ability to bring to life a thought that is hindered from expression, both for fear of judgment and for want of perfect words, and to counterbalance that thought with this all-consuming belief in the greatest force of them all, love.